about Michelle. Obviously, you know what this stuff was all about, right? It's not a surprise that we showed up tonight.
Almost overnight, she went from a possible witness
New Canaan police are asking for your help. They're trying to find this missing woman
to a person of interest in the case of a missing mom of 5 from New Canaan.
We see state police, New Canaan police, searching downtown Hartford.
So what's that about? Why is the scene moved to Hartford?
You need to tell us what you know about Jennifer's murder and Forrest Dulles.
The girlfriend in the middle of a bitter and brutal divorce battle.
This is very important. Stuff you were throwing out, we have. And it's all Jennifer. It belongs to Jennifer. Do you understand?
Turned high-profile murder investigation.
What happened to Jennifer, Michelle? You gonna do the right thing, Michelle?
Investigators wanted to know, did Michelle Troconis know anything about an alleged plot by her then-lover to kill his estranged wife?
I'll be honest with you, you're probably one of the most heated, bulleted affairs right now.
Or was she betrayed by her boyfriend?
We believe that you were kind of dragged down a certain path, okay?
So can you too?
Isn't that what Forrest does?
The search for the missing mom would spawn a statewide, years-long, all-out effort by investigators searching high, low, and everywhere else in between. And the man at the center of it all would refuse to cooperate with them.
It's an exhausting fight. I love my children. That's about it.
But his final move would bury any potential answers for good. Something his closest confidants never saw coming.
Forrest Dulles was declared dead tonight at 5:32.
Now, justice for Jennifer falls squarely on the shoulders of 2 of Dulles' alleged co-conspirators. Michelle Troconis maintains her innocence and says she's not the woman investigators have portrayed her as. A legal battle brewing for nearly 5 years.
She was detained in a way to overcome her will
now rest in the hands of a jury. We're taking you inside the trial of Michelle Troconis. And this is where a trial more than 4 years in the making is set to get underway this morning. Drone Ranger giving you a live look right now above Stamford Superior Court, where the trial of Michelle Troconis is expected to start in just about an hour. Good morning to you, and thanks for being with us on this morning for NBC Connecticut's exclusive live streaming coverage of the Michelle Troconis trial. I'm Shannon Miller. Court is expected to start here around 10 a.m. this morning, and we are still waiting for Michelle Troconis to arrive here at the courthouse. A line of folks outside right now waiting to see her walk in for this first day of her trial. Leading up to that, we are bringing you live expert analysis of the case that has garnered worldwide attention for years now and has been on the minds of people here in Connecticut since Jennifer Dulles vanished back in May of 2019. As I said, we are here at the courthouse in Stamford, and in a way, this is where all of it began. It was that bitter divorce battle proceedings and custody battle between Forrest Dulles and Jennifer Dulles that all started back in 2017, right inside this courthouse. Police say that anger later culminated at Jennifer's home on Wells Lane in New Canaan, just about 15 minutes north of where we are right now. Much of what happened inside that home is still shrouded in mystery. Jennifer's body has never been found all these years later, but her blood was found inside her home, and so too was Forrest Dulles' DNA. The alleged cleanup is what led us to the case against Michelle Troconis. She is charged with several charges in this: conspiracy to commit murder, hindering prosecution, 2 counts of evidence tampering, as well as 2 counts of conspiracy to commit evidence tampering. We know that a significant piece of evidence that's going to be a part of all of this, that the state is going to present, are these surveillance videos that show Troconis with Forrest Dulles along Albany Avenue as they drove around, making several stops in downtown Hartford, dumping trash bags. Inside those trash bags, a treasure trove of evidence that police say included clothing, zip ties, and household cleaning items, all containing Jennifer Dulles' blood. Now, this is a case, again, that has had so many twists and turns. And I want to bring in now a man who was there for it, all of that. Former spokesperson for the Connecticut Department of Emergency Services, Brian Foley. You are also a former Hartford police detective, homicide detective. There were many times, Brian, that I was calling you at all hours of the night with tips that we were getting on this case. What does it mean for investigators to come to this point today?
Well, for investigators, this is going to be a painful moment for all the family members that are involved in this case. They're going to have to relive everything. They're going to go through all the evidence. Some of the evidence you're describing, it's bloody evidence, pictures, crime scene pictures. It's going to be painful to the family. But for the detectives, this is a lot of hard work. I know the detectives involved. They are very, very dialed in, attention to detail, very motivated. They're the kind of guys, like, if I were to get murdered, and that's not out of the question, I'd want them investigating it. But a lot of these guys are retired, and now they got to come back and rely on their notes, rely on their memories. But the detectives that work this case for the Connecticut State Police, specifically Sergeant Kimball, my God, this guy is as good as a detective as they have. He'll be a highlight here of the trial moving forward. I'm sure he's prepared. Allegro, a lot, but again, they're retired. I'm not worried about it. All their memories will be just fine.
I remember speaking with Detective Kimball through all this, and he said his whole, even living room had these documents throughout the trial, that the case that he would be taking home with him to sift through. Can you talk more just about the extensive searches that went into this? This spanned all across the state.
Well, yeah, it was a wide area that they had to cover and multiple scenes that they had to cover, which can be tough. That's why the Connecticut State Police were probably the perfect agency for this. They have, obviously, they cover the entire state. They have jurisdiction in the entire state. So when it jumps from New Canaan to the Connecticut State Police, that's perfect for them. So many tips came in. Outside of the crime scenes that are the different areas that they had to search, so many tips came in, and the cops have to look into those tips. One, to try to find evidence, but also they have to do their due diligence, because if they get a tip in from a citizen about this case and they don't go look at it, the defense attorney is going to say, you should have gone and looked at that tip, because you would have found evidence to clear my client there, and it would have been something else to hand off to the jury. But multiple areas for the state police to search, a lot of cellular records that they had to search as well. Major crimes, which has the districts all across the state. The state police is perfect for it.
Hundreds, safe to say thousands of tips, I think, that came in.
Yes,
right?
And they all have to be vetted out. And, it's kind of when you're a homicide detective and you want to ask for tips. Something this big, you don't know what you're going to get, and you have to start chasing. It turns into a wild goose chase. You have to chase every single one of them down.
I want to move now to my next question, talking about what happened along Albany Avenue. That is where police first saw that surveillance video of Fotis Dulos and Michelle Troconis dropping off trash bags. Tell me about that part of the investigation. The commissioner, Ravel at the time, and myself, both prior homicide detectives in Hartford, spent the beef of our careers in Hartford, many, many decades. And the colonel walked into our office one day and said, hey, do you guys know where Green Street is in Hartford? And of course, we know where every street is. He says Dulos' phone is pinging there. Any idea why he would be in Hartford on Green Street? And we start thinking, some weed there, maybe some crack there, but it doesn't really fit in. But we're going to tell you exactly what he was doing there. We put up cameras on Green Street years before for the crime center in Hartford. We put those cameras up all over the city, in all the neighborhoods, not just in the rich or downtown areas. We put them in all the neighborhoods to protect everyone, and this was perfect. Within a half hour, they have video. It's Dulos and a female in the truck. I remember, in my mind, I can see it right now when they're playing it, and he's putting stuff in the garbage cans. We knew at that point that was damning evidence, and we think the biggest break in the case. He underestimated us. He underestimated the police. He had a great plan. Not good enough. Once that video came out, I would have loved to have seen the look on his face when he put on the news and saw himself putting stuff in the garbage cans on Albany Avenue, or even knew that we did. The drain, when they threw the license plates down the drain, the cops found all that. For us, being Hartford cops, it was a big win for us to be able to really put that nail in there. What a moment, and to know that those cameras did their job. Something so important. I want to bring you now to that moment where the murder charge finally came down. This was several months after Jennifer had gone missing. That was such a huge day because all three suspects were arrested. Fotis Dulos for that murder charge, Michelle Troconis and Kent Manwini for the conspiracy to commit murder. I remember that day like it was yesterday. That was insane. Can you take me through from an investigator's point of view on that day?
So You're talking about when he was actually arrested at Troop G. So for us, we knew that was a big moment. And this case didn't play along with media's timelines and that they wanted to arrest and the family's timelines, and everyone wanted to make an arrest, and there was pressure and there was reputation of the state police, reputation of all of us that were over the agency and everything. And so there was a lot of pressure, and we knew it was a big moment when the arrest was coming for us to really put it out there that the state police did a good job. And I remember prior to, and we were talking about, at some point he's going to go from the booking facility to the court. And they had talked about big state troopers are going to walk next to him and bring him out to the car and put him in the car, photos, doulos. And that was going to make the agency look really good, the uniform and everything. And I went home that night, it was the night before, and I thought to myself, this guy killed a woman, and he killed a mother. I want 2 women cops walking this guy out the back door. That's what we did. It's an iconic picture. You see it everywhere. And then the detectives in major crimes, for them, on their own, wore the purple domestic violence ties. It just said a lot. It said a lot for women cops. It said a lot for women. It said a lot for domestic violence. Big moment for the Connecticut State Police.
And that's what this case is really all about, domestic violence. And these cases, they happen all across the state. We know that there's an average about a dozen or so domestic violence-related murders in our state every single year. This one, of course, one of the most memorable. Brian Foley, we appreciate your perspective and bringing us back to the culmination of what was years-long effort by investigators. Thank you for your perspective today. We appreciate that. Of course, also of interest in this case are the potential witnesses who could take the stand during jury selection. Potential jurors were handed a witness list from the state with 200-plus names of people and company representatives who could be called in to testify. We obtained a copy of that witness list from the court, as well as a document from Troconis' attorney titled Names Pertaining to the Case. Now, those names include family, friends, associates, and attorneys with a connection to either Jennifer Doulos, Fotis Doulos, or Michelle Troconis. The state's witness list names 60 members of the Connecticut State Police Department, about a dozen members of the New Canaan Police Department, federal representatives from the FBI, as well as Homeland Security, and a dozen municipal police departments. Also named Chief Medical Examiner Dr. James Gill, as well as members from the Connecticut State Crime Lab. We will have to wait and see exactly what witnesses come to take the stand. At the center of this case is Jennifer Doulos, the loving mother of 5 children who disappeared. And that search, of course, went all throughout the state. The tragic end is that her body has never been found. This week, we learned that a probate court judge legally declared Jennifer dead. That ruling in October came after her mother petitioned for the decree in order to protect Jennifer and her children's assets. It is clear that Jennifer is still in the hearts and minds of people across Connecticut, people having been following the story and adding flowers to a memorial for Jennifer Doulos in West Hartford. That's located right by the reservoir. A statement released by a family spokesperson on Wednesday read in part, as this trial begins, it is crucial to remember who is at the center, Jennifer, whose 5 children have lost their mother and eventually both parents. We do not seek closure as nothing can bring Jennifer back. Our hope is that this trial provides for accountability and answers. Much more to come on Inside the Trial of Michelle Troconis. Up next, we are going to take you through those hours long of interrogation videos that we have been poring over. They are evidence that will be presented in this trial, and we are giving you an exclusive look at them next.
Have you seen your face plastered? I mean, I'll be honest with you, you're probably one of the most hated women in America right now. And I'm not being mean. So, this is like the golden ticket.
Women in America. That is what a detective called Michelle Troconis during one of the first interviews that she gave following her arrest in connection to the disappearance of Jennifer Doulos. It is just one of the many jaw-dropping moments in video footage obtained by NBC Connecticut, a lot of which has not been seen by the public until now. Welcome back to Inside the Trial of Michelle Troconis, NBC Connecticut's streaming show featuring exclusive in-depth analysis. We are live outside Stamford Superior Court, where Michelle Troconis is set to have her first trial. The first day start here this morning. Joining me now is NBC Connecticut colleague Kevin Geis. Kevin, you were here for those suppression hearings that wrapped up at the end of the year. Remind our viewers exactly what this is all about and exactly why Michelle Troconis' attorney did not want these videos presented before the jury.
Absolutely. Well, he put sort of point blank when we asked him about why he wanted this sort of evidence suppressed. He put point blank, the less evidence that's brought into court, the easier the job is for the defense and the harder the job is for the prosecution. Now, he made very clear that there was nothing directly incriminating about these. There's no bombshell confession inside any of these interviews. They strictly sort of wanted to not be able to dissect and not present to the jury all of the different statements that she made. Prosecution made very clear that investigators made very clear that she continues to change her statements. She continues to adjust her timeline of events on the 24th and the 25th of May back in 2019. So the defense really did not want these to come into court. Ultimately, the judge decided that they were admissible and they would be shown to the full jury.
And we see that moment that Michelle Troconis is first brought in. Investigators kind of appear to say, you know, we're here to help you. You're
right.
Safe here with us. These videos provide some of the best insight that we have gotten so far into Michelle Troconis' mindset. Again, shortly after that arrest, that she is charged, again, with conspiracy to commit murder and hindering prosecution, of course, and tampering with evidence. Now, also a large part of the case against her are these, again, videos showing her with FOTUS doulas, of course, as FOTUS threw out what appear to be trash bags. Again, prosecutors say those bags contain all sorts of evidence, again, that had Jennifer's blood in them. I want to play a part of the interrogation video where investigators then are asking Michelle Troconis about exactly what was in those trash bags.
This gentleman comes up to the garbage can and pulls that out. What does that look like to you?
A bag?
What's the red stuff?
Blood.
It's blood. And that's Jennifer's blood. And that's a pillow from her garage that's missing. So you need to start being honest with us about
I don't know anything about that pillow.
About where FOTUS was in the morning. Okay?
Okay.
Your life with FOTUS is over.
No, I know.
Okay?
I know.
From this point forward, your life with FOTUS is over. It's done. You need to think about your daughter.
No, yes, of course.
This is your time. You're definitely not being fully honest with us, and I want you to be fully honest with us.
And Kevin, what really stuck out to me in those videos is that they're trying to say, again, like, we want to hear what you have to say. FOTUS isn't giving us much of anything right now, so what is it that you know? And that moment, too, where they tell Michelle what they saw in those bags, I mean, to me, it's a reaction we have not seen and had not seen from Michelle before.
Right, absolutely. I mean, you see her body language sort of shift once they mention that they have the bags that were thrown out on Albany Avenue. And her defense attorney essentially argues that she was just there because he typically went on these sort of strange errands before. This was not sort of out of character for him. She noted that Albany Avenue was new to her. She had never been there before. She wasn't sure how to react sort of to the environment that she was in. But she also claims that she was on her phone the whole time. She wasn't paying attention. She was only there because she wanted Starbucks after. That was sort of the next destination that they were going to. So you can watch her whole body language shift, but at the same time, her defense attorney argues that she didn't really know what they were doing, and she didn't ask many questions. So she wasn't 100% certain why they were there or what they were doing there.
And I think that's really what they're going to have to prove is what exactly did she know? How did she not know what was going on? And that's what investigators exactly wanted to know as well. How did you not know what was going on here? But again, she maintains that this is something that FOTUS would do. He was a contractor. He would drop off these trash bags illegally. So again, here's how investigators were saying, how did you not know what was going on?
In the car when the trash is getting dumped, okay, nobody in the world believes that you didn't know what was going on, what was not, what he was doing, what he was throwing out. There's no way you weren't asking, what are we doing, what is this stuff? This is abnormal. This is abnormal behavior. You'd ask him.
Okay,
what do you say?
No, can I?
Absolutely. That's what we're doing.
We've done this in the past. We throw garbage. We've done it in Avon Pond. I've done it in Troconis.
So again, what exactly did Michelle Troconis know what was happening? I think that's really going to be up to the jury now to decide. You know, again, that moment that she leans out of the car wasn't in fact flicking gum off of her hand.
Yeah, and that was sort of like the one moment on Albany Avenue that you see Michelle Troconis. If she hadn't leaned out of that truck, investigators might have not necessarily had anything sort of tying her to the Ford Raptor driving up Albany Avenue on that day. So that's the one time we sort of see Michelle Troconis lean out. She claims she was flicking gum off of her hand onto the sidewalk, but that's the only time we see Michelle Troconis sort of involved. What she knew and how she knew it is sort of up to the jury at this point.
And we could potentially learn more about all of this, again, as that testimony continues. We want to continue now, again, to bring you the very latest here on the trial for Michelle Troconis. We are still waiting for her to make her way inside of the courtroom for the first day of her trial. Stay with us. Much more ahead. And welcome back to Inside the Trial of Michelle Troconis. Again, we are still waiting for Troconis to make her way into the courtroom. We want to get you now to the players of this trial, who you're going to be hearing from throughout. We want to get you first to the state team. That is Michelle Manning and Sean McGinnis, who are going to be working to fight for justice for Jennifer Dulos. Then you have attorney John Schoenhorn, who will be representing Michelle Troconis. And then you will have Honorable Judge Kevin Randolph, who will be watching this entire case and who has been overseeing all of these pretrial motions that have been happening here over the course of the last several weeks. Another part we want to bring you back to are those alibi scripts. I want to bring my colleague Kevin Geist back in here again, because this is a really important part again about what did Michelle know, how did she know what she was doing that day. We want to get you now to more on those alibi scripts. And this is where investigators really said it was a day after that they had interviewed her. They found those scripts inside the Jefferson Crossing home, and they said, all right, what are these? So tell us your take in learning about kind of how Michelle was instructed by her attorney to kind of write down what she was doing that day, the reaction of what is in those alibi scripts.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we see in sort of the alibi scripts is Fotis Dulos was instructed by his divorce attorney and with Michelle Troconis to write down everything that they were doing on the 24th and the 25th, like you said. Now, on those were sort of just a play-by-play of every single thing they had done. But what investigators found interesting and what prosecution continues to bring up, what investigators continue to bring up inside their interviews with Michelle Troconis are the discrepancies, the things that she wasn't getting right in her story, the things that Fotis wasn't getting right in his story, and sort of just the discrepancy and sort of the missing details, per se, like the lack of any mention of Albany Avenue, the lack of any mention of anything incriminating. That was sort of the most interesting thing. And you can hear a little bit of that right here.
Well, you're telling us tonight you did not see Fotis in the morning, correct? You wrote it.
This was like on Sunday.
This was the weekend.
This is like the weekend when we read the time.
Right, so you're writing the timeline that you saw Fotis in the morning. You guys took a shower together. You guys had breakfast. And in this interview today, you haven't seen him.
And again, you go back to how did she know, what did she know? And the one part that investigators were really kind of focused on is, was Fotis there the morning of Jennifer's disappearance? You know, in one interview, she says that he was, and the next she said he wasn't. She can't recall. So I think it's those moments where investigators were pushing her a little bit. What was it? Which was it?
Absolutely. So the prosecution is most certainly going to poke holes in her credibility using sort of the discrepancies between the alibi scripts and the discrepancies between interviews. Right off the top of her story, she started in the first interview essentially asking, you know, or saying, I I was with my daughter between the 24th and the 25th of May. There was a thunderstorm rolling through Farmington. I wanted to be with her. She was calling for me, so I went and I stayed with my 12-year-old daughter. Well, even by the second interview with investigators, they were able to look at the weather and essentially say there were no thunderstorms in Farmington that night. And there's a discrepancy right off the top of her story, and something that investigators continue to poke holes in, they continue to ask questions about, and then they continue to confuse her. She sort of multiple times says, well, if you don't say there were thunderstorms, then there must not have been thunderstorms. I must have been confused.
Sure. Let's take one more listen to that interaction.
We want you to take your time and give us as accurate information as you possibly can, but give us all the information that you can. Because if this comes down to a trial, you would have a jury of 12 people, and they would be told the story, and then they would have to say, is that a believable story?
And that's what it all comes down to. What's the jury going to believe? There's going to be far much more evidence and witness testimony that we have not heard about at all these 4 years. I have to ask you, Kevin, you knew about this story before you came here. What are you most excited to learn about once you get inside that courtroom?
Absolutely. I am for sure most interested to hear from some of the major players. I was following this case when I was in college. I continued to watch this case when I was in college. And then when I started my news career at large, I was always interested in it. I am fascinated to sort of hear from the players who were involved in this investigation. What is sort of, what did Michelle know, and how did she know it, and when did she know it?
That's right. And the jury going to hear all of that testimony starting here in just a few minutes. We thank you for joining us this morning for our special coverage taking you inside the trial of Michelle.